Good morning. Welcome to Let's Get Growing Facebook Live. A little delayed this morning, but that's okay. It's a Sunday morning. We're just going to go over a few things in the garden today that come up at this time of the year. One of the most important things, I think, at this time of the year is, of course, fall color. It doesn't always need to be trees that give us good fall color. So we're going to look at a few things that are sort of adding nice fall color to the garden. We're starting up here because the climbing hydrangea, climbing up this old tree stump, is looking fantastic today. Beautiful bright golden yellow. Still looking nice. We haven't had a hard frost yet. I expect that to happen tonight. We're supposed to go down to the freezing mark tonight, so some of our fall color is going to end. But there's a few interesting things that give us some fall color. And hostas at this time of the year, even still, some varieties can be quite colorful. If you turn around, Laura, you'll catch the beautiful golden yellow of that one variety there. It varies a little bit from variety to variety. We saw this a couple of weeks ago. Actea pachypoda, the wonderful doll's eye fruit of that always look great at this time of the year. As we move into the garden, we see lots of fall color up behind us here. One of the most beautiful trees, I think, for the fall is the katsura tree in the background here. That beautiful one with shades of yellow and orange and purple a little bit. It's a beautiful tree for fall color. It apparently smells like cotton candy in the fall. I don't get it, but it still smells really, really good. So we've cleaned out our fall containers, but we've left one plant in the containers. The Carex flagellifera toffee twist. We'll talk about that when we do our winter planters in a couple of weeks' time, but they're there for a reason. I'm so thrilled with these little alströmerias. They're still blooming away. This is the Inca series. It's been blooming since about the 1st of July, non-stop. It's been out here in the cold. It's had some really cold nights, but still blooming away, pushing out more flower buds. Like, look at the number of flower buds still coming on that. Likely, we'll see what the frost does to it tonight. We'll see how frost tolerant the alströmeria is. If it holds up to some frost, that would be great, even better. As we move through the garden here, I want to talk a couple more plants. We'll just sneak our way through the garden. You get a bit more close-up of the katsura. Wonderful ranges of color all on one plant, which is great. We're just going to come to this guy really quickly. You know, there's a lot of shrubs out there that, give you bloom all at one shot, like a forsythia. The lilacs are a couple of examples that don't give you much later. This is Spirea triloba, one of the parents of the bridal wreath spirea, and it's a shrub that I just absolutely love. Gives us that wonderful bridal wreath spirea mounding, arching stems covered in white flowers. A couple of weeks after the bridal wreath spirea, so it extends the season a bit. Look, it's even got a little bit of rebloom this year. But look at the fall color on that spirea. That is really impressive. And it's really nice where a shrub gives you several different seasons of interest. It's something I always stress. Great that a shrub is a flowering plant, but if you're looking for shrubs that, have to do a lot in small spaces, then you've really got to pay attention to what the shrub does when it's blooming, what the foliage looks like in habit through the summer, and then the fall color. This, to me, is great fall color. So Spirea triloba, the bridal wreath parent, ridiculously hardy, ridiculously drought tolerant. this big grouping here, and this is about 3 plants here, so don't get overwhelmed. But they're about 4 to 5 feet tall, 5 to 6 feet wide, arching habit, beautiful thing. The other one I wanted to mention, now this one gets missed in our garden a little bit because he's gotten so big. This is Rosa glauca, or Rosa rubrifolia, the red leaf rose. But what I wanted to mention about roses is a part that a lot of people often forget, and that's a lot of varieties have really good rose hips for the fall and winter. Look at, very, very showy. Rosa glauca is a beautiful variety, but like a lot of rose species and a lot of the old hybrids, only blooms once. So a rose that only blooms once can be a bit of a dud sometimes in some gardens, especially where you don't have a lot of space. So you need to look at what a rose can do for you later on in the season. Now, Rosa glauca has beautiful sort of silvery blue foliage with a bit of a red tint in it. But after its clusters of single pink flowers, you get this wonderful display of rose hips. So it's something to keep in mind when you're rose shopping. Usually the catalogs will tell you that they have good hips because it really is an excellent feature. I've even seen good, rose hips used. You can even cut these and put these into your winter planter arrangements and use them for color that way. I've even seen them offered for sale occasionally. Cut stems of rose hips. Also, just flower arrangements in general. It's a great option. So something to keep in mind when you're looking at what roses to put into your garden. Think about the hips after. There are some amazing ones. They range in color from black to red to orange and all different sizes. So it's a really extra aspect of roses to think about. Now we're still getting some good fall color through here. Again, like I say, a lot of good hosta clumps. But we're going to look at one thing that also people worry about in the fall. And we always get a lot of questions about this. And that's, why are my evergreens turning brown in the fall? So this is Thuja occidentalis pendula, the weeping white cedar. You can see that we're getting a lot of browning of growth here. A little bit lower down. Again, you can see the browning here. Because it's a fairly open tree, it's quite noticeable. You don't always notice it, but evergreens always do this. This is normal shedding of old foliage. If you see stems where you've got good green healthy growth here at the tips, and even going back, here was this year's growth, back in here was last year's growth, this we're getting back into the year before. So this is supposed to die off. That's going to fall off in some wind. The plants are then going to look great again. You see it here too. This is old growth. Nothing to worry about as long as your young, newer growth is all still nice and green. Don't worry about it. Normal shedding. Most evergreens only keep their needles for about 3 years. Some might be 4. Some might be as short as 2. So if you've got white pines, excuse me, you see it quickly on the white pines. Let's take a look here. This is our weeping white pine, and you can see it here. Fairly young looking needles, but they're coming off. And that is perfectly normal as long as your newer growth is still looking good. Don't worry about it. What do we do with those needles when they all fall? We leave them right where they fall, because nothing better than falling leaves to feed and mulch your garden. If Laura steps back a bit, you can look and just see what's going on in the garden here right now. All these leaves in the pathway, they get kicked right into the garden. and allowed to decompose right there in the garden. Now, I did come across something that makes a lot of sense that I'm going to pass along. Because we're starting to see a lot of the jumping worms in southern Ontario, they're popping up in certain areas. Probably best to stop that old practice of going around your neighborhoods and getting bags of leaves off your neighbors' driveways, because you run the risk then of spreading those jumping worms. If somebody in your neighborhood has them and they've put out a bunch of leaves, probably best to leave them alone. But if the leaves are falling off your own trees, maybe your immediate next door neighbor's trees, by all means, get them in the garden. They are the best and cheapest and easiest plant food you'll ever buy. You got any questions today, Laura?
No questions
today? All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. It's chilly out here. We're going in for breakfast. Pricing for our trips for next year will be out this week. We're all set to go. We are still adding gardens, so watch for our 2 trips. Late May, Chelsea Flower Show, and sort of the west and south of England from that area, from London. There's some great gardens in those areas. We're still putting the trip together, but we have the main features. Also, Scottish Highlands, first 2 weeks of August, going to be magnificent. We've got some great gardens already lined up there as well. So we'll have the main features out this week and pricing out this week, and you can get ready just in time for the Christmas presents for the gardener in your life. So we'll leave you for now. We'll see you next week on Let's Get Growing Facebook Live.